Now let's get to know Excel's various printing options and capabilities. Printing is usually an important step of your work in Excel because you've spent a lot of time and effort creating something and are either checking it to make sure it's complete or you're actually presenting it to someone. By spending some time up front to understand Excel's printing options, you can make your work look more polished and avoid some common and embarrassing rookie mistakes. You already know that you can print your work by holding Control and hitting P. This takes you to this print menu that you're already familiar with, where you can choose a printer. You can choose to print your active worksheet, or print the entire workbook, or just print whatever you have selected. So if I only want to print, let's say, this part of my data set, I could hold Control P and then go up here and say print selection. It'll only print that selection that I've highlighted, which you can see in the preview here. It's getting cut off, so I could change that from portrait orientation to landscape orientation if I wanted to. And since it looks like there's still some data being cut off, I could change my margins. If I give myself some narrow margins, that fits in a little bit more. Scaling, right now this is at 100% scale. I can change my scaling and tell it to fit the entire sheet on one page. And now it zooms out so that I can fit all of my data on one page. That might be the direction that you're more familiar with, but it's usually not the way that I'm setting my print options. My first step when I'm thinking about printing is usually to set my print area, which means I'm defining within my worksheet what cells I want to print. So if I'm printing this whole data set, I'll highlight the whole data set, and then I'll hit Alt, P to go to my page layout tab, R for print area, and S for set print area. It doesn't look like anything's changed, but if I hit Alt, W to go to my view tab, and then I for page break preview, you can see that the area I've set on my print area is now highlighted and surrounded by this blue border. Let's change our view back to normal with Alt W, L for normal. There's several other options on this page layout tab that you can use to adjust when you're thinking about printing. I can hit M to look at my margins, which is the same as the other print menu. O to adjust my orientation. But if I want more detail, usually the way that I'll do that is by hitting this SP shortcut, which opens more detail in the page setup section. So I'm going to hit S and then P. Now it opens up this page setup menu. And here I have a lot more control over how I'm printing. I can arrow over to specifically adjust my margins. And in this section, I can also choose to center on the page horizontally, and you can see it moving in the center of the screen, or vertically. This header and footer section can be useful when you're presenting your work. Let's say I want to go into custom footer. I can customize the left, center, and right section of my footer, and I have these different options right here. I can put a page number, let's say, on the right. And if I wanted, I could type of, and then space, number of pages. If I want on the left, I could insert a date stamp and a time stamp. I could insert a file path, file name, that might be useful, sheet name. I'll put my file name at the bottom. So now I've created this custom header, so when I print this out, it's going to say today's date and time, the name of my file, and page 1 of 1. The reason it says 1 is because I still have this set on print selection, so I'm going to change that to print active sheets. And now you'll see that I have this mass of data that will not fit on one sheet, so I'm going to need to change these back. No scaling. I'll leave it normal margins. Portrait orientation, definitely. Let's go back to our worksheet by hitting escape. And now that I'm printing my entire data set, you'll see this dotted line right here. You might have seen this before. That indicates a page break. If I look at Alt-W-I, my page break preview, that's a little bit more clear. I have this blue line, so it's showing me that all of this data will not fit on one page when I print. It's going to print starting with page 1 right here, move down to page 2, go all the way down to row 805, and then it'll start back up here, and this will be page 19. That's not what I want, so I'm going to move back to Alt-W, L for normal, and I quickly want to show you how to get rid of these page break dots because that's something that can be a little bit irritating. If you hit Alt-F-T, and then Advanced, go all the way down to Display Options for this worksheet, and you're going to want to uncheck this Show Page Breaks box. So now if I hit Enter, that dotted line goes away. I know that's something that can annoy people, so I wanted to point that out real quick. Now what we want to do is fix our printing options so that this is printing out with all of my columns on one page. I'm going to go to Alt-W-I for Page Break Preview. And since I want this all on one page, I'm going to take this dotted line, which indicates my page break, and I can actually drag that over here with my mouse to the right, And now you'll see that this is all going to be on page 1. It's going to break again at row 78 and print page 2, etc. If I hit Control P to look at my print preview, that's looking okay. The data's a little bit small, but I could adjust my margins to give it a little more room. I have that nice footer at the bottom that says the date and time, the name of my file, and page 1 of 11. The problem is that when I move to subsequent pages, my column headers disappear. And now you're presented with the same problem that you just tried to fix with freeze frames. The way that you fix this is I'm going to hit Escape, I'm going to go back to my normal view, and then I'm going to hit Alt-P, SP. And then we're going to go to this last Sheet tab. What we want here is this Rows to Repeat at Top section. And this gives us a field to cell, so I'm going to click into this field, and then I'm going to highlight the row with my column headers. So now, if I go to this print preview, my first page looks the same. If I go to my second page, my data changes, but my column headers are still there. That makes this much more useful when I print it out.